Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Wednesday. It's the first day of October 2025. And as we begin the month of October, we have some very important headlines to bring to you, so let's get to them. First of all, from Joe Rosensberg's All Israel News, why do some Christians believe the rapture will happen in or around Rosh Hashanah or New Year's Day? Then from the Jerusalem Post, will Hamas accept the U.S.-Israel plan to end the Gaza war? Well, not right away, it looks like. And then from the BBC, we're told that a Hamas spokesman has told them they're likely to reject Trump's peace plan for Gaza. And so it looks like we will have to go back to square one. And so these are the headlines this morning. And also today at sundown, the new year begins in Israel, Rosh Hashanah. And that leads us to our first headline of the day. Since Rosh Hashanah, the New Year's, begins today in Israel in modern times, why do some Christians believe the rapture of the church will happen on or around Rosh Hashanah? This is a headline from All Israel News. It's a question we deal with every year at this particular time, and so we'll deal with it again because it comes up. There's so many things that people have talked about. You've seen on so-called prophecy specialist headlines that the rapture of the church is coming, the predictions that are there. And so we're going to try and set the record straight here. Now, what I'm going to read first comes from our book, 50 Common Mistakes about Last Days Bible Prophecy Cleared Up. It's from our website, Educating Our World, under the heading of Bible Prophecy, and it's a free download. We'll mention that again after we go through this real quickly. But 50 common mistakes that people often make about Last Days Bible Prophecy, and this is one of them, about the so-called fall feast, which don't really exist, as we will see. But we will explain first and foremost what certain Christians believe and then why it's not correct, because this is necessary to do. We have to do it every year at this time. So let's get to it. All right. At Jesus' first coming, there were three festivals that the Lord had ordained through the prophet Moses. These were fulfilled in the spring of the year that Jesus died. This includes the Feast of Passover or Unleavened Bread, Firstfruits, and Weeks or Pentecost. They were also fulfilled in the same order that they are listed in Leviticus chapter 23, verses 4 to 22. Okay, the New Testament confirms this by citing each of these festivals as predictive of the coming of the Messiah, Jesus Christ, as well as certain events that would take place in his life. There's really no disputing this, and nobody does. But here comes the however. However, in addition to these three festivals that were fulfilled in the past, it is believed by some Bible students that there are three other feasts or festivals recorded in the same chapter, Leviticus 23, that are three remaining prophecies that remain to be fulfilled in the future. Furthermore, as the first three prophecies were fulfilled in the spring season, these last three will be fulfilled with the Lord's return in the fall season of some future year. These include the Feast of Trumpets, the Day of Atonement, and the Feast of Tabernacles, or temporary shelters. The seasons are listed from the perspective, obviously, of the Northern Hemisphere. So accordingly, a number of people are looking for the return of Jesus Christ, either by means of the rapture of the church or the second coming, to take place in the fall season of some future year. The date is usually thought to be either on or around the beginning of the new year in the Israeli calendar or Rosh Hashanah. This would occur in the months of either September or October, depending on the date of the Jewish New Year, which fluctuates each year in our calendar year. Now, if this belief is true, then it's important, of course, to know exactly what these festivals are predicting about the future return of the Lord. However, as we will see, there are a number of major problems with this view that make it virtually impossible to be correct. Well, it is impossible to be correct. All right, we list something like in our book, I think 19, 20, 21 facts about them. I'm only going to list six of them. This ought to do it. And we're going to also have them here in our summary of today's breaking news. We're going to list them there for you to look at. And again, you can go to the website and download the book. It's free and explains in great detail all of these. But we just want to hit the headlines here to show you why it doesn't work. Six quick facts. First of all, the beginning of the biblical New Year, Rosh Hashanah, is not in the fall, but rather in the springtime. We list four passages in the Old Testament, including one in the future millennium, where the new year is celebrated in the spring. This is the biblical date of the new year. This was changed in the Israeli Jewish calendar after the time of Christ. But according to the Bible, the New Year begins in March, April, as we will see from Scripture. Exodus chapter 12 tells us that. Also, fact number two, Leviticus 23 lists 7 special set times or holy assemblies that the Lord appointed to be observed, but only 2 of them are actually called feast. The Hebrew word hag means feast. That's unleavened bread or temporary shelters. There's only 2 of them specifically called feast in this chapter. The other 5 are called just special days or holy days. And that brings us to number 3, the third fact. The Day of Trumpets there is not called a festival or a feast, but rather a holy assembly, an appointed time, a commemoration, a memorial. It's not a feast. Never has been called that. Fact number 4, since only one of the 3 set times in the fall is called a feast, it is wrong to use the term these 3 of the 3, the fall feast plural. This term should never be used because they're not 3 fall feasts. Fact number 5, we're not specifically told why the trumpets were blown on this particular day, the day of the 7th month there. Then finally, there is no passage in the New Testament that regards the trumpet blasts of Leviticus 23 as prophetic of the return of Christ. None whatsoever. So here's our conclusion. Therefore, we should not expect the rapture of the church to take place on the new date for Rosh Hashanah, since there is nothing in the Bible that predicts it. Now, it could happen, but there's nothing that predicts this special day. And again, for a thorough understanding of the issue, see our book, 50 Common Mistakes About Last Days Bible Prophecy Cleared Up, the Fall Feast or Festivals. It's do not give a general time frame for the return of Christ. I think that's mistake number 43. It's a free download from our website, Educating Our World, under the heading of Bible Prophecy. Now, like I said, we have to do this every year at this time because there's so many wrong-headed people out there saying, oh, this is predictive of the second coming of Christ or the rapture of the church is going to happen here, and people are getting all excited about it. Then when it doesn't happen each year, people get disillusioned, disappointed, because they believe something that the Bible never taught about the subject. And these people that teach it are very irresponsible. They should study their Bible a little bit better and learn what it says and what it doesn't say. And we're sad we have to do this, but again, it happens every single year. So anyway, okay, enough for that one. Okay, now 2 other things that are happening right now. Headline number 2, will Hamas accept the U.S.-Israel plan to end the Gaza war? Well, according to the Jerusalem Post, not right away. President Donald Trump's announcement of a peace plan in the Israel-Hamas war on Monday was missing one crucial element. Now we just have to get Hamas. Now, observers of the region, including families of the 48 hostages who remain in Gaza that would be freed swiftly under the plan, are holding their breath to see whether Hamas will sign on to the plan. And that's where we're at right now. We're in this limbo period where we're waiting to see what Hamas says. The group that governs Gaza and orchestrated the October 7, 2023 murder on Israeli citizens faces strong pressure to do so. A number of Arab or Muslim states, including Hamas backers, Qatar and Turkey, Egypt also have endorsed the 21-point plan. So far, Hamas said is only reviewing the plan that's been formally presented to its negotiators after Donald Trump's joint press conference with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, and that response could take several days. Now, we saw yesterday Donald Trump says we'll give you 3 or 4 days to respond, and that's it. The group is reviewing the proposal responsibly, the Arab news organization Al Jazeera reported yesterday. If Hamas accepts the plan, the group will be agreeing to disarm and cede control of Gaza. But its leaders will be allowed to leave the enclave, and hundreds of its most sought-after members will be freed from Israeli prisons. So, will Hamas accept Trump's Gaza deal? Well, if it rejects the deal, Israel would have Trump's backing to continue its offensive in Gaza City and elsewhere in the enclave. Israel would also have politically isolated Hamas, and this is what's key. Isolated Hamas would have wound up on the same side of an issue with the vast array of world leaders, including Muslim countries, who have recently sought to pressure the country to abandon the war. And though Israel's really got them, as we've talked about, Trump and Netanyahu have got Hamas cornered. Are you going to go against what your Arab brothers say? The great number of Arab countries are saying, accept this agreement and lay down your arms and leave Gaza. Now, Netanyahu reportedly achieved multiple changes to the plan in the days of talks with the White House negotiators, including scaling back the requirements of Israel's withdrawal from Gaza, strengthening the terms around Hamas's disarmament, and removing the Palestinian Authority as a possible administrator of post-war governance in the enclave. Netanyahu also said he had vowed to block the creation of a Palestinian state, though the Trump plan calls for working towards a credible pathway to an independent state, but that would be way down the line. Whoever was there would have to jump through a number of hoops that, of course, these people are never willing to jump through, such as recognizing the existence of the state of Israel and not trying to destroy it. Okay, in a video that Netanyahu posted online after leaving the White House, he said the new plan represented Israel's vision. It really does. And he turned around from when the White House was pressuring it to accept Hamas's turn to end the war. And Netanyahu said, who would have believed it? Who indeed? So it's amazing Netanyahu pulled this off. It really is. I'm very impressed with him. But here comes number three, and this is what we expect to happen. This is from the BBC. Hamas likely to reject Trump's peace plan for Gaza, a terror group official tells the BBC. The British public service broadcaster cited the official, saying the plan serves Israel's interests and ignores those of the Palestinian people. We've heard that a couple times the last few days. Hamas will likely reject U.S. President Donald Trump's now it's 20-point peace plan, not 21, that would end the war in Gaza and see the release of the remaining 48 hostages. A senior official of the terrorist organization told the BBC today, Wednesday. The British public service broadcaster cited the official, saying the plan serves Israel's interests and ignores those of the Palestinian people. The official added that Hamas also refuses to disarm and surrender its weapons. It also rejects any presence of an international stabilization force in the Gaza Strip, both of which are conditions in Trump's plan, the BBC noted. The report comes in contrast to a CBS report citing supposed informed source, saying that Hamas and other Palestinian terror groups are leaning towards supporting Trump's proposal. That was leaked, but it doesn't seem to have any real backing to it. The terrorist organization has not given any official response to the proposal, but like we said, it's supposed to be reviewing it responsibly. And the BBC noted the Palestinian official has said it's been examined by Hamas leadership both inside and outside of Gaza. Another condition that Hamas reportedly rejects is releasing all the remaining hostages at once, which the BBC describes as letting them go would be their only bargaining chip. Well, again, we're to the place where they don't have any chips to play. They've got this one, obviously, but Hamas needs to go. All the Arab countries say the same thing. The Arab Muslim countries, Western countries, Israel, the United States, so they're all in one accord here. This comes after Palestinian Islamic Jihad spokesman Mohammed al-Musa told Ultra Palestine on Tuesday evening that Hamas was set to meet with other Palestinian groups to discuss their response to the plan. The proposal does not pertain to Hamas alone, but to the entire Palestinian people, he told the Palestinian Outlook. Therefore, all factions are required to participate and formulate a unified national response to it. Well, there's only one of two responses, either yes or no. There's no room for any change that we saw yesterday, no room for discussion. Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey urge Hamas to accept Trump's 20-point plan. We mentioned that. In fact, there's a headline from Egypt. I said, Hamas, this is your last chance. Accept it now, or that's it. You will be, basically destroyed militarily with Israel finishing the job. And so Israel has the full backing, like we said, to finish off Hamas if the terror group rejects the deal. Trump made that very clear. I hope we're going to have a deal for peace. If Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only ones left, and this is true. Everybody else is on the side of it. Everyone else has accepted it, but I have a feeling we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, he's talking to Netanyahu, Bibi, you have our full backing to do whatever you need to do. So basically what's happened is Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu have, even though it's called a surrender plan by Hamas, they cornered Hamas. And they're going to risk regional isolation and would legitimize a continuation of the war now if they say no. And so they're going to silence all these critics and say Israel doesn't want peace. Israel's trying to do this, genocide of Gaza, et cetera, et cetera. Well, now you got a peace plan on the table, and Israel's willing to abide by it, even let an international group run Gaza in the interim time. And so what's the problem here? So Hamas, like we said, is preparing the ground for the possibility of rejecting the peace plan. Although there is some support from ordinary Gazans, the problem is the figures inside the terrorist organization, the leaders, do not want to do this, don't want it to happen, as we've talked about this over and over again. Therefore, it's unsurprising as the story finishes that leaks have appeared about its demands for a withdrawal timetable and guarantees against renewed fighting. These leaks appeared intended to wrap an eventual refusal in a more palatable package, perhaps in hopes of getting a better offer. But there will be no better offer. There's no more negotiation. That's it. So this is what we expected to happen. Hopefully soon Hamas will make it official one way or another. Trump's only given them a few days, so when we get an answer from them, we'll let you know. but they're not going to accept the plan as is. And so the good news is Israel and the United States have been very smart in all this, getting the Arab countries on their side, getting everybody saying the same thing, that Hamas must leave, must lay down their arms, must let Gaza be run by somebody else. And yet Hamas is not willing to do this, and evidently they won't be willing in the coming days. So we'll wait and see. All right, I'm Don Stewart again. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.